I exposed how my rich private school treated our lunch lady, and it changed everything. Our cafeteria worker, Ms. Rosa, always smiled, even when students threw food on the floor or made fun of her accent. One day, I saw her crying in the kitchen after hours. She told me they cut her pay but doubled her workload after firing the other cook. I couldn't sleep that night. The next morning, I brought my phone to lunch and secretly recorded everything. Kids dumped their trays on purpose, calling her their personal maid. The worst part, the principal walked by and didn't say a word. That weekend, I made fake Instagram accounts pretending to be rich parents. I commented on all the school's posts about how disappointed we were that our $50,000 tuition went to schools that mistreated staff. Other real parents started asking questions. The next day, the principal announced they'd heard concerns, but instead of helping, they threatened to fire Ms. Rosa for causing drama. Big mistake. I stood up in the middle of lunch and played my videos on the cafeteria's projector screen. The whole room went silent. Parents started calling. The local news showed up. Turns out, the school had been pocketing cafeteria funding for years. Now Ms. Rosa runs the whole kitchen staff with better pay. And those mean kids, they have to help clean the cafeteria every day after school. The principal got fired last week. Sometimes the best revenge is just showing people the truth.
What event made you see your mom in a whole new light? I was 14 when my mom lost her job. She'd been the financial analyst at her firm for 7 years. That night, I discovered her in our basement surrounded by dusty boxes of old photography equipment. Within days, she'd converted the laundry room into a darkroom. Dad kept pressuring her to find real work, but she barely acknowledged him anymore. She'd vanish for hours, capturing forgotten corners of our town that everyone else ignored. I started noticing the dark circles forming under her eyes. Some nights, I'd wake at 4 a.m. to find her still hunched over her desk, editing photos until sunrise. "I'm fine," she'd insist, downing another coffee. The arguments between my parents intensified. "This photography nonsense is bankrupting us," Dad would shout. Mom's voice grew quieter each time, but she never stopped. 6 months later, I found her collapsed on the darkroom floor. The paramedics couldn't revive her. Cardiac failure due to extreme exhaustion, the doctor said. I was numb, empty, until I found her journal while packing her things. Through tear-stained pages, I read words that shattered me. "Every photo I sell gets Tyler one step closer to college. Nothing else matters." She never got to see how her sacrifice paid off. The memorial exhibition sparked interest from a major curator. Her photographs of overlooked places now hang in galleries nationwide. The woman who died making sure I had a future became renowned for showing the world what it had failed to see.
My cousin tried to ruin my wedding by copying my exact dress. She had no idea what was coming. I spent a year planning my perfect beach wedding. Everything was going to be white and blue. The decorations, the flowers, even the dress code. I sent everyone photos of my custom-made dress months ago, warning them not to wear anything similar. My cousin Sarah always needed to steal the spotlight. When we were kids, she'd cry at my birthday parties until she got to blow out my candles. At my sweet 16, she faked fainting during my first dance. When I got into college, she announced her pregnancy at my graduation party. But I still invited her to my wedding because family is family, right? Biggest mistake of my life. The morning of my wedding, I was getting my makeup done when my best friend burst in, face white as a ghost. Sarah had just arrived wearing an exact replica of my wedding dress. She'd secretly taken photos during my final fitting and had it copied. I couldn't believe it. She walked around greeting guests with this fake innocent smile saying, "Oh, I thought it was a white dress theme." Everyone knew it wasn't. She'd seen my wedding plans 100 times in our family group chat. I gave her one chance, either change into something blue or leave. She refused, claiming I was being bridezilla, so I had my brother escort her out. Here's where karma stepped in. As she was storming out, she tripped on her knockoff dress and fell face first into our massive 3-tier wedding cake. Blue frosting everywhere, all over her white dress, her face, her hair, everything. The photos of her covered in blue frosting went viral in our family group chat. My aunt says she still hasn't lived it down. Best wedding gift ever. How would you react if your best friend secretly called you trailer trash? My best friend finally announced her wedding date, and I was thrilled to be a bridesmaid. I had so many ideas and was excited to help her plan everything, but I quickly learned I wasn't her maid of honor. It hurt, but I understood it was her day to shine, not mine. While shopping for her wedding dress, I stepped away to get water and overheard her talking to her maid of honor. "I only made Amber a bridesmaid because I felt bad for her," she whispered. The maid of honor laughed and said, "I know. Can you imagine having trailer trash in your wedding photos?" Then they both laughed harder. I was crushed. That night, I told my boyfriend everything while crying. He got quiet, then looked at me with determination. "You know what we should do? Let's get married on the same day. Let's have the wedding you deserve." I was shocked, but immediately said yes. When I quit her bridal party, she was furious. "You're ruining my symmetry. How could you be so selfish?" We spent months planning our beautiful lake ceremony. I worried no one would come to ours. On our wedding day, I was amazed. Almost all our mutual friends chose our wedding over her country club event. By evening, even some of her family arrived at our reception. "Her wedding feels cold and staged," they told me. "This is what real celebration feels like, the perfect moment." When my best friend showed up still in her wedding dress, looking defeated, I simply handed her a glass of champagne and said, "Welcome to my trailer trash wedding. Funny how it's the one everyone wanted to attend."
What did your parents say to you as a kid that still affects you today? I was 7 when my dad looked me dead in the eyes and said, "The world won't care if you're tired. Never let them see you cry." I took those words to heart. When my grandma died, didn't cry. When I broke my arm in football, not a tear. When my first girlfriend cheated, nothing. I became known as the robot in high school, the emotionless one, the guy who could take anything, and I was proud of it, until last month. I'm a firefighter now, and we responded to an apartment fire. Found a little boy hiding in his closet, terrified. As I carried him out, he suddenly grabbed my arm. "Wait, my sister is still inside." My blood ran cold. We'd already cleared that entire floor. There was no sister. His mother rushed over as I set him down, tears streaming down her face. She hugged him tight and whispered, "It's okay, baby. You can cry. Your father was wrong. Boys don't have to be strong all the time." My stomach dropped. The kid looked up at me, still trembling, and said, "My dad always said crying is for babies, but he's not here anymore." I broke down right there, in front of my whole crew. 20 years of locked up tears came flooding out. Called my dad that night, told him everything. There was a long silence. Then I heard him crying for the first time in my life. "Son," he choked out, "I've been trying to find a way to tell you. That was the worst advice I ever gave. I was repeating what my old man said to me. Spent my whole life being strong, and all it did was make me miss out on really living." What's the fastest you've wiped a smirk off of someone's face? My stepfather was a master of psychological warfare. His favorite game? Finding little ways to make me feel worthless. If I got 98% on a test, he'd ask why it wasn't 100%. If I cleaned my room perfectly, he'd find a speck of dust I missed. But his favorite power move involved the dishes. Every night I'd be washing when he'd stroll in, plunge his hand into my dishwater and dramatically pull it out. This water is ice cold. Start over. Didn't matter if I was almost done. I had to dump everything and begin again. The worst part was that smirk as he walked away. His control issues extended to everything. He'd measure the lawn with a ruler after I mowed it, making me redo sections that were too long. Once he threw away my science project the night before it was due because I left it on the dining table instead of my desk. Learning responsibility, he called it. When my mom tried standing up for me, he'd shut her down with, "I won't have my stepson turning into a useless man." He did all this while maintaining a perfect public image. The involved parent volunteering at school events. I tried so hard to please him. Waking up earlier, double-checking everything, nothing worked. The goalposts always moved. After my birthday dinner where he accidentally knocked over my cake reaching for salt nobody needed, I'd had enough of his games. One day, after a particularly cruel comment about my college chances, I heard his car pull up. I quickly emptied the sink, boiled a pot of water, poured it in with soap to create innocent bubbles, and stepped back. When he walked in and reached for the water without looking, his hand plunged into the boiling liquid. His face instantly changed from smug to shocked as he yanked his hand out. He never tested my dishwater again. The next day, we got a dishwasher.